You're listening to Let's Talk About It, a digital forum that holistically addresses the issues that arise in everyday life and the current affairs that are prevalent throughout our nation and that affect our culture. Let's join host Ty Priest Hannah now for today's discussion. Let's talk about it.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Let's Talk About It. I am your host, Ty Priest Hannah, but everybody calls me Ty. Thank you for allowing me to chill with you today. I have some very special friends joining me today on Let's Talk About It. In actuality, they are really not strangers to this podcast. They've actually been on with me a few times before. Joining me today on Let's Talk About It is the wonderful, fabulous church mother herself, the psalmist herself, Tempestt Hough. Tempestt, how you doing, baby?
Oh, I'm doing good. How you doing?
I am doing well. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Yes. Thank you.
Also joining me today is my very trusted, loyal servant, Simi. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. My boy, my guy. I'm actually excited to be the best man in his wedding. I am so honored. But joining me today is my manager, TJ Tremaine Chandler. Chandler, what's going on, man?
I'm good, man. Appreciate you for being on today.
Wonderful, man. Thank you so much for joining me. Listen, so before we get into this conversation, I first want to find out, how are you guys doing? Because, we haven't really, had any major contact since the last time we had a conversation. So how have you guys been doing since 2021?
Trying to stay afloat,
Yeah.
A little rough, but, trying to stay afloat.
Gotcha.
But I'm making it.
Wonderful. Chandler, how things going on your end, man?
Man, things are going wonderful on this end here as well. Taking the opportunity just to learn, process the things that are occurring in current events, and ultimately just becoming a better you by challenging myself. And that's it, man.
Yeah, wonderful, man. Wonderful. That's what's up. We can always become better versions of ourselves. I certainly agree with you on that. I need to become a better version of myself. But anyway, I didn't ask you to agree.
Yes.
You stupid. So guys, we're just going to jump right into this conversation. It is actually a continuation, rather, of a conversation that we started sometime last year. But of course, it was a very loaded conversation. We started talking about being too independent and how that affect our lives, especially for those of us who are single, and even for those who are in a relationship. And there was a particular comment that was made somewhere in the conversation along the lines of, when you are independent, it causes your tolerance level to decrease, which will ultimately cause you to become less and less patient. And so we were talking about relationships. And of course, one of the things that we all have to understand, that if we're going to be in a relationship, if we're going to be married, one of the primary attributes, aside from love, aside from trust, one of the primary attributes that both individuals must have is patience. Because of course, we all know that in any relationship, conflict will arise. There's going to be some trials and tribulations. There's going to be some persecution. There's going to be some hell and high water. I wish I had a church on the other end of this line. But nevertheless, because we have this perspective that, we are independent, that we can take care of ourselves, many instances when conflict arises, we automatically retreat to the perspective that I don't have to deal with this. I don't have to put up with this. And the reality is, if you are going to make the decision to be involved with someone, if you're going to make the decision to love someone, one of the primary things that you must possess, one of the primary characteristics or traits that you must possess is patience. because you have to be willing to tolerate not necessarily. I really don't want to use the word tolerate, but you must be able to deal with some things. You got to be able to deal with some things.
Mm-hmm.
And so the question that I want to pose to you all tonight is, do you think, first of all, do you think love is actually worth the wait? Lord, don't all answer at once.
Is love worth the wait? I mean, I think that it's worth it, but I'll be honest, for myself, it's like, okay, God, how long do I have to wait? I want love, but I think a lot of times we have in our mind what we want love to look like, what we think love should be, and we oftentimes, or we may push away someone that really does love us, but because I guess it's not what we intend for it to be, we feel as though it's not necessarily the right love. And I believe that you grow in love with a person. I believe that loving a person is a choice.
Right.
You have to make that decision that you're going to love that person, that you're going to be with that person, because it goes back to what you just said, patience. Mm-hmm. There are going to be some things that is going to happen, but you're going to have the patience to be able to love that person, regardless, through good and through the bad, through the ups, through the downs, you choose to love that person. So do I believe love exists, and do I believe it's worth the wait? Of course. The problem is, okay, how long do I have to wait for this love to come? Because I envision love to be one thing, but that may not even be how or what God has for me.
Chandler, I see you. I see your thought. I see your mind just brewing. What's going on?
Just listening to Tempestt, and ultimately the subject at hand is patience. Is love worth the wait? That's a tough question to answer. And the reason why I say that, it's a tough question. Because anything that we have been taught in life that is worth to wait, we have all intentions is that we would receive the benefit of it. And ultimately, I think that most people's hesitation in love will be from one, culturally, anything that we want it now, and we want it instant. Right. If we can't have it now, if we can't go into the store and buy it now, we don't want to have to wait for a 7-day shipping process, because again, we want things instantaneously.
Right.
And then I think the other issue that in having to answer that question with many of us is that it is ultimately that in our endeavor, from past experiences, in being patient with someone or with something, and it did not result in the way that we thought it should conclude. In other words, I was doing the right thing for the wrong reasoning. I was patient. I was a good woman, or I was a good man. I did the things that I was supposed to do, but in spending that year in that relationship, that 2 years, those 3 years, and I invested in all of that, and at the end, I still got heartbroken. That's why it's hard to answer that question for I think many of us. And ultimately, because it did not result in the manner and in the way that we thought it should conclude, then if we become less patient, because now is that I'm not going to deal with this because I've already dealt with it before, and it didn't end in the way that I thought it should. So because I've already been hurt and the scars of the past is still open and fresh, I become less patient with people versus understanding that what happened in the past has nothing to do with this particular relationship or process. And that if I can just overcome that, I think that I can understand what patient is. But most of us aren't patient and may not see that being patient is worth it because it didn't play out our way the first time.
Man, that's really loaded. That's really loaded. And I am actually inclined to agree with you, because I have been, personally speaking from my own personal experiences, there have been relationships that I've been in and I was expecting it to go one way. And in actuality, when we begin to talk about, being patient and is love worth the wait and things of that nature, I was in the relationship with the person, and yeah, we may have both had some issues with each other. She may not have liked something that I did, and I may not have liked something that she did. But at the same time, the difference between me and that individual was I was willing to remain in the relationship until you grow out of whatever it is that you need to grow out of. And I would expect, for me, that I would expect the same thing. Like, I would expect that being in a relationship, that if you're going to love me, then love me to the extent that you can be patient with me until I grow out of that level of immaturity or that insecurity or whatever the case may be, until we're both on the same level. Because I think oftentimes what we don't understand when it comes to relationships is that when two people make a decision to be involved with each other, what is happening is, and I would actually have to use the Bible for this, because the Bible says concerning marriage, and when two people get together, they become one. It says to become one. Interestingly, the Bible doesn't say that they are one. The Bible says that they become one. Are in English is a state of being. That means you are already it. But if you are becoming something, becoming is a process.
Right.
Yeah, becoming is a process. When a child is born, that child is already, as soon as that child comes into the world, that child is in the process of becoming an adult. It does not come out of the womb as an adult. And so likewise, when we are dealing with relationships, we have to, and when we begin to talk about two becoming one, we have to remember that there are two individuals who are coming together, and they're coming from different backgrounds. And because they're coming from two different backgrounds, of course, they're both going to have different opinions,
Right.
Or what have you. And so in making a decision to love you regardless, and not only that, with the ultimate goal of us becoming one, that means that when we come together, that there may be some areas in my life where I may be a little bit more mature than you, and vice versa. Okay. But just because you may be immature in one area and I'm mature in another, or you may be mature in another area and I'm immature in another, I don't necessarily think that is a reason to totally throw the relationship away. And oftentimes when we get in relationships, oftentimes when you get into relationships, that seems to be the case. Whatever the case may be, he spends too much money, or, she's not very intellectual. Maybe she didn't grow up in a family or grow up in an environment where her intellect was challenged. Or maybe the case, for a person like me, I've one of the things that I've heard a lot of women say is that I spend a lot of money. Well, the reason why I spend a lot of money is because, number one, it's just me. I don't have any kids. I don't have any kids. But just because I spend a whole lot of money, that doesn't necessarily mean that, I'm not going to talk to you anymore because you spend a whole lot of money. Well, I understand. I understand from my standpoint that that is an area, finances is an area where I probably need to work. I do need to be a little bit more mindful concerning my spending. And so when it comes to love, I think and when it comes to relationships, I think our tolerance level, I think we need to use wisdom. I won't even use tolerance level. I think there has to be a level of wisdom that one must have when they are in the process of becoming one with another.
I totally agree with you on that. And it kind of goes back to something I was just saying earlier. I mean, when you're involved with someone, especially the whole mindset of dating to marry, you date to marry. You date with, be intentional in your dating. Okay, that's the first thing. Be intentional. And a lot of times when we are dealing with that person that we're involved with, again, the first issue, we're ready to run. But you have to make the choice. And number one, if you're dating to marry, the things that's being presented to you that you don't like, you have to first of all ask yourself, is this something that I'm willing to deal with in the long run? Now, there are going to be a few things that you're not willing to deal with, because for me, per se, I don't necessarily want to marry someone and then later down the road get divorced. That's just not how I was brought up in my belief. So I try to think of every situationship or relationship, whatever you want to call it. When I go through things, I ask, okay, is this something that I can deal with in the long run with this person? Am I willing to tolerate this? Am I willing to accept this? Because this is something that may or may not change. I see it and I'm presented with it now. So it may not change. It could get worse, because I'm a strong believer that when you are dealing with someone, number one, you're going to continue to change. Both of you are going to continue to evolve, even as time goes along. So you have this in front of you. Can you deal with this? Can you accept this? And we're so quick to say that we just want to give up because we see that red flag. And I'm guilty of it. When you have bad relationships, you've gone through different things. The first sign that you see in something new that you're in, it's like, okay, let me kick rocks. I've seen this before. This is familiar to me. And because this is familiar to me, let me get out of this so that I don't go through what I've been through before. Yet at the same time, every relationship is not going to be the same. You know, this person may do something that was horrible or hurt you in the past, but then it may be a total different situation with this new person. So it goes back again to patience. Am I really willing to sit here and deal with certain things, knowing that it may or may not change? I mean, you talk about your spending habits. That doesn't mean that you mismanage money. I get the same. I mean, I've been told the same thing. All you do is spend money on clothes and shoes. Okay. But I know how to manage my money. I'm taking care of my responsibilities. I know what I need to do, and I'm handling that, and I play later, but then you have other major issues that you have to make the decision as to whether or not I'm able to deal with this and deal with this for the long haul. But because you do become independent, or because you are independent, you don't want to deal with it.
Right.
And then I think you miss out sometimes because of that.
That's true. That's true.
So in hearing both of you give your exegesis of being patient, I think patience ultimately reveals truth. And what does that statement mean is that first, to be patient also means selflessness. Like, you have to really take yourself outside of you and being patient with someone else, which is not an easy process to do. Again, as Dr. Hannah stated, because they come from different backgrounds, they have different opinions and perspectives. And if they're not agreeable, then oftentimes we pretty much shun them. I think that ultimately, to become patient with someone, what does that patient look like? What is the attitude that you have to have when being patient? Many think that being patient means waiting. No, it doesn't necessarily mean waiting. While you're being patient with the person that you're going to ultimately be with, you yourself should also be growing and getting better in areas that you need to be in. Patience also teaches, because when that other individual, when they understand that, and someone being patient with me, when they could have chosen to run or leave, but yet they made the choice to be patient. And when they're patient with you, they understand the sacrifice of being patient.
Yeah.
Because if I've been patient with you and you've been patient with me, you understand sometimes that patience and being patient can make you a little frustration. Cause frustration. It can make you think like, I don't know if it's going to ever happen.
Right.
And if we have the total attitude of that, no matter what occurs, I'm going to still be here because I'm loyal to the process. It's easy to think of that after we go through this season that things will be great. But what if that season doesn't have an expiration date that matches your expectations? Do you leave?
Doc, now, hey, now you hit on something.
And that's the thing. I think if I had to just say, most of us need to stop tripping. The process was designed so that it would strengthen you, that it would push you to your boundaries, that it would get you in those areas that you're not comfortable in, to allow you to explore a better you. So while you're in that process and that other person sees it, then you can help your mate realize that, you know what? Now I can view him or her differently because I now understand that they do love me, because patience is love.
Right.
So that will be my take on the process of being patient. We just got to stop tripping, allow the process to happen. You ain't the first person that had to be patient, and somebody had to be patient with you as well. So if you can't show grace, and that's the relationship that God has with us, is that He is so patient with each and every one of us that when we finally come to that cognitive mindset, that spiritual revelation that, you know what? He did it all for me.
Right.
Man, and I did not deserve it. How wonderful is it then that you and that person understand grace?
Right.
TJ, when you said that, that made me think of something, because you said, people are being patient with us. So it makes me think back literally just to my personal experience. And I oftentimes wonder, can you really love me? Are you able to love me because of things that I have gone through? Can you handle me? Can you deal with me? Because you have relationships where you have one partner, or maybe both, whatever the case may be, who have gone through things so bad in their past, or they've been hurt so bad in the past to where it's affected them, to where you're really going to need patience to deal with them. It's not that the person that you're dealing with is a bad person, but they still have hurt. And I agree. You need to get hurt out of the way before you even try to pursue being in any type of relationship. But because, let's just be honest about it. We say we're healed sometimes, but we still do have triggers.
Right.
And when I'm at my worst, when I'm having a moment, when I just lash out, can you deal with me? Can you still love me in spite of, and be patient with me and understand that I want you, I want to love you, but I don't necessarily know how to love you or how to receive your love. Can you be patient with me then? Can you be patient with me knowing that I've gone through so much I've gone through, and I may give you a hard time? Can you deal with that? That's an issue that I have personally. And I think there are other women that are going through the same thing. They've gone through things in their past. They've dealt with different issues. and they get into the relationship. And you know what they say, us Black women, we can be real catty, have the smart mouth, and, you know, all of that stuff. And then you have a man right here that wants to love you. You want him to love you, but you're afraid that he's going to hurt you again. So you put up walls, you put up boundaries, and you begin to pay. And all you want him to realize is that you're just afraid. You're scared. But you still want him to love you. But at the same time, you're pushing him away. Does he have the patience? Can he really deal with it? Can you handle me at my worst?
Let me speak to that just for a minute, just before, you know, Chandler comes in, because you said something about the fact, you said something that was so powerful, that when a woman has been hurt and she gets in another relationship, that of course walls are coming up. I think in many instances, that's when communication has to be the most prevalent and the most powerful. Because if you are afraid, then let me know that you're afraid. And particularly when it comes to women who are hurt, who've been hurt, and I would just limit it to Black women, but I know for a fact that it's not just Black women, but women across the board, that instead of you communicating and telling me that you are afraid, what you will do is put this facade. You will mask your fear in aggression. Okay, you will mask your fear in sarcasm. Okay, and ultimately, what happens is, especially when it is a man who understands who he is and what he has to bring to the table, that man will if it is not properly perceived. Okay, if it is not properly perceived, that man will interpret that sarcasm and that aggression. He will interpret that as you dishonoring him as a man. And no man is going to remain with someone who does not respect him or honor him. So that's the reason why I say that if that is the case, then let me know that you are afraid, so that I will know going forward how to conduct myself. If there is a trust issue that you have, let me know, because then in turn you are giving me the opportunity to make the decision whether or not that is something that I believe that I can handle. Because everybody can't handle a woman who has trust issues. You know, everybody can't handle a woman who has, you know, been hurt ultimately. They don't know how to deal with that. And so ultimately what I believe, one of the most, only if you are interested, you know that you're interested in that person. One of the ways to combat that is that you must communicate. Because I'll tell any woman, I'm not a mind reader. Now, granted, you know, if we are together, of course, you know, when you begin to pay attention to your woman or to your significant other, you'll know that there's something wrong, you know, and that's just with any relationship. You know, if you get to know anybody over a long period of time, there's a level of discernment that, you know, that'll be like, you know, you off, you quiet, you ain't saying nothing. We've been at work all day and you ain't said nothing. You know, so, you know, there's that level of discernment. But of course, if there is something that I may not be able to discern, that may be imperceptible to me, whether psychologically, emotionally, or whatever the case, then communicate that. Because at the end of the day, like I said, I'm not a mind reader. So I'm not going to sit up here and try to discern and be in the spirit trying to ask God, well, Lord, what's wrong with her? I know I'm not going to do that. I'm not about to waste my time. Tell me what's wrong with you. You can open up your mouth when your birthday comes. You can open up your mouth when you want something to eat.
That's right.
Open up your mouth and tell me what's wrong with you. God doggone it.
That boy,
y'all about to make you Kirk Franklin up in here.
That boy owned it.
But go ahead, Chandler.
No, and that's where exactly where I was going to come in at is that, there's such a high level of expectation that he should know or she should know what I want. And in other words, if you want me to bear all things and you want me to believe all things and hope all things and endure all things, then you've got to let me know what's going on with you.
Right.
I mean, I can't help you if I honestly don't know what's wrong with you. And as a side note, as we oftentimes talk about women are hurt, at the end of the day, men hurt too. If you are willing to be open with me and tell me what's going on, you don't think I'm hurting? And just because my reaction is not what you calculated to be, doesn't mean that I don't care. I think a wise man said this before. Once a man gets quiet, he's spoken.
Yeah.
He's done.
Yeah.
But you have to communicate, and not just with communicate, you cannot come into a relationship with the option. Will Smith said this, which I now take, and I'm growing, but he says that the reason why, in his marriage, him and Jada were able to last as long as they last, and even though they have their recent problems and they have their recent situations, he said that we never put the option of quitting on each other. He said, because once you make it, again, an option, most people who've been hurt will reach for the option of quitting versus reaching for the option of staying.
Right.
So
I agree.
If you want me to be patient, then help me understand what you're going through, and then I can understand why I'm being patient. But if I don't know why I'm being patient, then to me, I'm trying to look at this thing. And another question is, does patience have an expiration date?
Oh God. Oh God.
Because to me, it does.
Oh, well,
I'm not gonna stay with you for 8 years and keep praying and going to every church service, asking God to change you, and you still the same way for 8 years. No.
Yeah, that's a long time.
Okay, so let me go ahead and put this in here, because you made this statement earlier. I just want to throw this out there now. You made this statement earlier. You said that God is patient with us.
He is.
Yeah. He is. Now, when the Bible, another term that the Bible uses for patience is long suffering. And some of the preachers of old used to say that if you want to define long suffering is having to suffer long. He does not say how long we have to suffer or how long he suffers with us. Because the simple fact of the matter is, if we're going to equate, human relationship between if we're going to equate human relationship with a relationship with God, because God is the ultimate creator of relationship, that's where we get our relationship principles and behaviors from, then the fact of the matter is God never gives up on us. And I don't understand, and I'm talking about me, I don't understand how we can say that we love someone, or we are for someone or what have you, and then we are so quick to give up on them. I don't even understand, how do you expect to remain married if you don't have patience with your spouse or your significant other? Because these individuals, once again, that falls back with to becoming one. To the becoming, the process, it never said that, anybody who's been married for a long period of time, they never said that the process was easy. Tempestt, your parents have been married, how long? 30 years or something like that?
30 plus years. Yes.
Yeah, 30 plus years. I am quite sure that there were some areas that your mama was praying that, Lord, please let whatever I can't remember your daddy's name, Roland. What's your dad's name?
No.
Roland?
The Reverend Dr. Ronell Hough.
Ronell, the Reverend Dr. Ronell.
Be patient, please. Be patient.
I was close. but I am sure that there were some areas that your mom had to be patient with your father. And I'm quite sure that there are some areas that your father had to be patient. He had to suffer long. I can imagine that there have been times where he got frustrated because, in his mind, he's thinking, we've been together all this long time and you still haven't gotten it yet. Or she probably been like, I can't believe you just did that. I mean, after all of this long time, you are still doing this.
Right.
And so I don't necessarily know. I can't necessarily, and I won't necessarily say that I disagree with you, Chandler, but I don't necessarily know if patience should have an expiration date, because how can we strive or how can we accomplish the goal of becoming one? Okay. How can we accomplish the goal of becoming one if we're so quick and willing to throw in the towel?
And that's when it goes back to when I said earlier, are you willing to accept and deal with some things in the long term, understanding that something may not change? There just may be some things about that person that is not going to change. Either you're going to be willing to deal with it or you're going to kick rocks. Is this so bad that I say that I can't spend the rest of my life with this person? Or is this something minor that my love can outlast it? You have to make the decision. Is this something I'm willing to deal with or not?
Right.
Can I still love this person in spite of this or not?
Right.
It's a decision.
Right.
It's a decision.
And let me say this. I'm going to say two things. The first thing is, Tempestt, you're right. As a pastor, one of the things that I always do right before the wedding, right before we begin the ceremony, I will always have this conversation with the husband. I will tell them, if you want to get out of this, now is your time. I will tell them, because whatever problems you have had with him prior to this ceremony, you need to make sure, and I even do this in counseling, you need to make sure that you are able to handle this if it doesn't change after this date.
Exactly.
Okay. Because if you don't think you'll be able to handle it, there's no need for me to have all this stuff on, this suit and me looking as good as I look.
Lord.
Lord.
I don't care what y'all say. I know I look good. but seriously, there's no need for me to go through all of this and have all these people here, gather to see you if y'all going to get divorced in another 2 or 3 years.
Right.
There's no need for that. There is absolutely no need for that. And then secondly, when it comes to having patience with someone, and you mentioned about the fact, making sure that your love is able to outlast that. You need to make sure that if you are going to make the decision, to be involved with this person, and even though, y'all have had numerous discussions about the same situation, for instance, I'm just going to use just one minute example. Me personally, this is just me personally. I don't like to squeeze my toothpaste tube in the middle. Right. I cannot stand that. Oh my God, that bothers me. Start from the bottom. You know what I'm saying? Start from the bottom and squeeze that thing up.
Yes.
My toothpaste costs $6 a tube. Like start from the bottom. We got to make sure we get all of this. But the fact of the matter is, if my wife, whoever she may be, if she, continues to squeeze the toothpaste in the middle, I got to make sure that if she doesn't change in that area, I got to make sure that I'm able to handle that, watch this, without complaining. Without complaining. Because that becomes the issue. That becomes the issue. You have the patience, you'll deal with it, but you'll deal with it on the front end. But then on the back end, you you'll start complaining. You'll wait until you get around your homegirls and be like, child, let me tell you what Derek did. No.
Yeah.
No. You made this decision. You made this. Deal with it. You're gonna have to deal with it.
All right.
Chandler?
That's right. That's right.
Oh my God.
I'm not going to take the affirmative side of this. I'm going to take the negative. Yeah. Oh boy, you got me thinking.
Yeah. You can't. We cannot necessarily say, and like I said earlier, I know, particularly us three, because we are, very independent. Like we are very independent, but at the same time, when it comes to relationships, I think the leveling ground, the balance has to be, the wisdom that we must use is that even though we have arrived in a certain area, our significant other, spouse, or what have you may not have arrived in that area. Well, let me say it this way: an area where we are mature, they may be immature. Okay. And likewise, a area where they may be mature, we may be immature. And the same level of patience and grace that you mentioned about earlier, Chandler, the same level of patience and grace that we would want extended to us, we have to be willing to extend that to them and not be so quick to throw in the towel. Because the fact of the matter is, if we were to revert back to and make this, bring forth a spiritual connotation out of this, if that was the case, think about how many times in your life God could have given up on you and said, you know what, I ain't got time for this. I can think, and listen, for me, I don't have to remember far. I can think of 5 things already today.
Yeah.
5 things. 5 things he could have said, you know what? Nah, not today, Doc. Nah, let me just go ahead and put you where you need to be. Seriously, I'm serious. So I think, when we begin to deal with relationships, we're going to, the question that I actually probably should have posed instead of, is love worth the wait? I probably should have posed the question, do I have to tolerate that? Now, I understand. I understand that when it comes to relationships, now, if you've been dating for 8 years or what have you, and y'all still ain't married, then yeah, you don't need to tolerate that. Because that don't make any sense. You're dating
because
for 8
that's
years.
Not real love.
Yeah, that's not real. Right. That's not real. That's not real love. You're right. But if it's something like, the tube of toothpaste, type thing, then that's not a real reason to throw away the relationship.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then I would even have to wonder, did you really love me if you're willing to throw me away so quickly?
And I think that's what patience, the Bible says that patience or love rejoices in truth.
Right.
Because ultimately, how do you know how strong, or how do you know how someone truly loves you if they don't want to go through the hard times with you?
Man.
I don't need a woman that, if I don't take the trash out, she gets upset and she ready to disbar me. Like, I want the woman that even if I get fired on my job and I can't find another occupation for a couple of months, or I'm dealing with some trouble, or I didn't reach all of her expectations, or I didn't come through the way that she thought I should come through, is she still going to stay in the trenches with me?
Oh man.
Or is she going to abort mission?
Doc, you actually reminded me, your question reminded me of that movie Acrimony. Because that,
yes.
The question has been posed, was Taraji P. Henson, was she actually right in getting mad at her husband when he made the decision to move on. And my question, my answer is, no, she had no right. She really had no right in getting mad. He asked her, he begged her to stay, even though, yeah, I'm in a a down moment. Of course, I know that we're struggling. But I got this invention. I got this idea. And I promise you, baby, if you could just stick with me, this idea is going to make us both rich. And even if you remember in the movie, even when he got the job, even when he got the job, she still threw him away.
Yep,
she did.
And so when he made the decision to move on, what type of restitution was there for her? She didn't deserve anything. She didn't deserve any recompense. For what? She dropped him in the middle while he was going through. She had no patience. Her patience ran thin. She suffered, but she didn't suffer long. she suffered, but she didn't suffer long. I can tell you that. So I mean, you have a good point, because when we begin to talk about patience, I mean that's another area. When things arise, when conflict arises that attacks the relationship as a whole. It's not just your opinion versus my opinion, or my perspective versus your perspective. But what happens when our relationship is attacked as a whole? Can you still stay with me? Can we still stay together? Can we still stay together? And not only can we just still stay together, for the sake of, saying that we are together, can we still be in love with each other?
Wow.
Yeah, because that can be that's where the challenge really lies. Because I've seen a lot of married couples, and I could tell when they're going through something, especially if they're preachers or whatever. I could tell when they're going through something. There's too much posting on Facebook. My wife is so beautiful. All of that. All of that extra stuff. All of that extra finessing that that goes on. I could tell. Yeah, they got trouble in the house. There's trouble in. Yeah, there's sin in the camp. That's what it is. but still, I need to know. Can you still love me? Can we still enjoy one another, even though our relationship is being attacked? I know we can pray about it. Of course, we certainly need to pray about it. But I still need to know, are you going to see me as your man? And if, we might as well, we adults, we could be real. I need to know, being married or what have you, I know we're going through a conflict, but, are we still going to, have some fun tonight? We still going to roll around in the sheets, because, at the end of the day.
Yeah, Doc, you own it now, man. You own it.
At the end of the day, I mean, right. If we can't do anything else, hey, we can't do anything. There's certainly one thing we can do. There's certainly one thing we can do. Nothing.
All the brothers saying amen.
Wow.
I'm telling you, we may be having, the money may not be working at the moment. The car may be broken down, but I'll tell you one thing that's always in service.
You know what?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's one thing that'll never go out of business.
You are.
I'm serious though. Because if you really think about it, when you deal with those issues, when you have those issues that attack your relationship, think of the health of your relationship as a whole. Like when couples are dealing with things like they barely talk to each other, they can barely enjoy one another.
Right.
They'll,
and speaking of intimacy, I think intimacy will bring you even closer together.
Yeah.
You're going through issues. That intimacy should bring a closeness even more. In my opinion.
Yeah, I certainly agree.
No, I agree. I certainly agree.
I certainly agree. Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you this one point that, ultimately, I think most of us have to define what patience is to us. And do we really understand it, or is it something that we grow to learn as we are involved? And I say that because Miss Tempest, just as your parents have been married for 30 some odd years, my parents have been married for 35 years.
Mm.
And I know my parents because they're very truthful, but can I tell you that every day was, a great day and, everything went right? No. And there were even times that I was like, why are they still together?
Mm-hmm.
That was because of my immaturity and understanding that they love each other.
Mm.
And that love was not based upon just the display of us taking on Twitter or on Facebook and taking a selfie and saying, I love husband, I love wifey. But the reality of that picture is that that wasn't the truth. That
Mm.
no matter what occurred, they were always loyal to the fact that we will always be together.
Yes.
Hell or high water, in or out, drowning or
Mm-hmm.
not, we are still going to be together. And that is a lot of the frustration I think that many have. They want the 10-year anniversary and they want to reach that 30-year milestone, but you can't reach that unless you understand what patience looks like.
That's
Right.
right. That's right.
And,
That's right.
and another thing is, since you're talking about that, I had this conversation with someone just on last week. This generation does not take marriage seriously.
Oh,
Okay.
Lord, no. Yeah, you're right.
You don't take marriage seriously, and you get married for the wrong reasons,
Mm-hmm.
which is why when the first problem arises, you're ready to beat feet because you did not build a solid foundation in the first place because you got married for the wrong reason.
Right.
And
But if
that's
you have that 3 chords, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You hit that 3 chord, girl. I'm about to be with you.
I was saying, when you have that 3 chord being you, your spouse, and God in the midst of it, there's no
Mhm.
reason why that marriage should fail because we all know marriage is not going to be a bed of roses.
Right.
Every day is going to be a new day of learning yourself and learning your spouse and growing together and bettering your marriage. Okay? You're going to go through things, but are you willing to weather the storm? It's going to be yes, because I married you. I made a vow to you. I made a vow to God, and I choose to love you. Or
Right.
it's going to be, well, no, I married you for the wrong reason in the first place, and I can't take it. So I'm getting out of this. It's like the fight or flight. Either you're
Wow.
going to fight through or you're going to run. Fight or flight. It's either one. And a lot of times in this new generation, it's the flight. You leave. You're ready to give up at the first sign of a problem. Why?
That's true. That's true.
Why?
That's true.
And then you tack on to the ending of your statement of why this has never occurred for me or why I never could get the marriage that my mom and my dad received or my girlfriend, she's been married for 20, 30 years and I'm never a bride, but I'm always a bridesmaid. That is ultimately the problem. If we're really truthful, is that it's not the relationship. It's not the other 4 or 5 men that you have dated. The true problem is you. So patience ultimately, if before it can start, it has to start with the one element of truth. We got to stop lying to ourselves or masking that we are stronger than what we really are, or making it seem that we are something more than what we are.
Right.
And at the end of the day, when you can be truthful to yourself, you can accept yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And if I can accept who I am for all that I am, then I believe that patience has everything it needs. Because at the end of the day, if I'm gonna meet you, and if I don't have the job that I want now, it should be okay because I know that I'm still in flight or I'm still pursuing that.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I can't come to you and tell you I make 6 digits when I know I barely am touching 50 digits. That's not truthful. And then when your expectations of me, or you put on this burden that, we should be able to have this kind of a house and I don't got that kind of money, I become frustrated. That's because I lied to you. So before patience could ever start, we got to be truthful to ourselves, and that's her as well. Because women hide a lot of pain. They mask it very well.
Oh yeah.
And when they mask it, I'm strong, but really, when the first time trouble comes, I'm gone, and that's when frustration builds. So again, my simple statement: be truthful to yourself, be real with you, accept you for who you are. You're supposed to be who you are, and you're supposed to have the issues that you have. That's why God made you, and He knows your resume. So with that, truth has to be the beginning part of being able to love someone, so you can love yourself, but you can be patient with somebody else.
Right. So true. So true. Well, guys, listen, I have certainly enjoyed our conversation tonight. It has definitely been very, very, very eye-opening and very impactful. And
I'm gonna call you.
My office
I think it has your wheels turning, TJ.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Talking to me today.
His wheels been turning all day. I know that.
I've been talking about me here today.
That's all right. All right. The first step is being truthful.
That's right. Be truthful.
Right,
be truthful. Be truthful. And then by doing that, you know what area you need to grow. I mean, I'm not saying that, because
I believe
it's me too, man. I'm about to be 40 years old. In another year, girl, I still look good. I don't know what you're talking about. Talking about Jesus. I'm about to be 40. I don't look 40. Don't try to play me. Look how smooth this chocolate skin is.
See, he lied to himself. He ain't patient.
But seriously,
that's why God ain't saying you no woman right there. Conceited.
I'm not conceited. I'm just confident. David said, I am fearfully and wonderfully made, and my soul knoweth right well. I know I look good. You can't tell me I don't.
Lord.
But listen, guys, thank y'all so much. Thank y'all so much for joining me tonight. I certainly appreciate it.
Yes. Anytime.
And
absolutely.
we would definitely be getting together again pretty soon. Of course, there's another topic always when it comes to relationship issues. There's so many things that we can talk about and so many things that really need to be addressed, what have you. So of course, that this certainly won't be our last time getting together. Well, that's our time. I really enjoyed our time together today, and I hope you have too. I appreciate you allowing us to hang out with you for a few minutes. Now, if you like what you hear or have a particular topic that you would like to discuss, you already know what to do. Send me an email at ltaipodcast@29501@gmail.com. Once again, the email address is ltaipodcast29501@gmail.com. Or you can even shoot me a text message at area code 843-799-7619. You know I want to hear from you. Thank you for tuning in to Let's Talk About It. I am Tempestt Hannah. I'm out. Peace.
Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
You've been listening to Let's Talk About It.
Let's talk about it.